Welcome to AMIcast, podcast about Amiga computers. I'm your host, Krzysztof Radzikowski, but call me Krzysztof or Radzik. Hi everyone, this is the special episode of AMIcast and we will talk here about the FriendOS and about the Amiga 30 years in Amsterdam. And at this meeting I meet my guest hi, please say something and your name and what you are doing, just simply. Yeah?
Okay, my name is Hogne Titlestad. I'm the chief architect in Friend Software Labs, and we're developing the FriendOS or FriendUP.
FriendOS is inspired, as I saw this, is inspired somehow in flavor of Amiga OS. So let's start from this point. Your connection with Amiga.
I come from a background, first getting my Commodore 64 somewhere in 1986, I think. I was 6 years old. I'm born in 1980. Of course, the first thing we do would be to look in the Magic Book, the Commodore user manual. And so I started programming a bit in BASIC. And, I was just a kid, so it was just making blocks of color text on screen and different things, and then advancing with a bit loops and simple stuff while being tutored a bit by my brother, who's 3 years older. And in 1989, he got a Amiga 500. And of course I cried and got one as well. And then I was thrust into the Amiga world, which was an amazing experience of fantastic music and graphics. And I tried to continue to program in BASIC on Amiga with Amiga Basic, but that was a complete waste of time. But then I started exploring, and there was so much to explore on the Amiga platform from any point of view. And so it became part of my life as I used to do my homework in KindWords, which was an old word processor for Amiga 500. I advanced from there into, doing more and more with my Amiga. And I got into everything that you could do, from music to drawing in Deluxe Paint to looking into, assembly language, which I didn't understand anything from, but it was, fantastic to explore it. I got into the magazines, so I basically got involved in everything. And I got an old copy of Real 3D for the Amiga 500, and I noticed for the first time how slow the CPU is in a way. And so I managed to advance to Amiga 1200, then 4000, and into the upgrade train. And I kept going and upgrading and my skills and upgrading my Amiga until 2001, about when I started using Linux. I think I had 5 months where I used Windows, and I just couldn't handle it. So I've been using Amigas pretty exclusively until 2001. And then I started on my quest to recreate the experience on a future-proof platform. So I was a bit inside of the Arrows project.
And for Arrows, you did the I don't know exactly the name, the Lu Paint, or this was like this, yeah? Luna Paint.
Yeah, Luna Paint. Yeah, Luna Paint was. It was also actually how I met Pavel Stefanski. Actually, through the IRC channels of MorphOS and ROS. I was trying to find something to do to help advance the ROS as a platform, but also to learn how to program for it so that I could also contribute. Actually, if you go on in Wanderer in ROS and you choose classic mode in the Wanderer settings, that also was something that I developed. I was developing quite a few things on the desktop environment for ROS as well. Most of it is it was because I wanted to have the ability to keep the Workbench 3.1 behavior in ROS without making it too Windowsy. But I think around 2007 and 2009 I exited out of that project because I felt there was too little progress and too much chaos for me.
Yeah, this is the one of opinion about AROS. This is nice idea, but with chaotic way, yeah, a little bit. Okay, and then one more question about the Amiga stuff. So you are familiar with AROS, but other system like MorphOS and Amiga OS 4, have you used it or something like that?
Yeah, I haven't used Amiga OS 4, only seen it at demo parties. Some people sitting and playing with it. MorphOS was much more accessible to me. I knew several people who had MorphOS compatible hardware, and I've been playing with it, but never on my own computers. So it was mostly ROS that I had always got a dedicated computer for. I still download the latest code and try it. But MorphOS and Amiga OS 4 always was a little bit prohibitive because of the kind of super commercial, what do you say? Yeah, the price and the lockdown to the hardware and so on. So I don't have any PowerPC hardware laying around, so it's a bit difficult for me to participate. But they both look fantastic, and I'd actually like to have some PowerPC hardware at one time, but I never got around to it.
The problem is, of course, the money that you must pay for this, but now you can try the emulation, yeah?
Yeah, that's also possible, yeah.
Okay, so I think the Amiga background is enough. So let's say something about FriendOS, because this you were one of the I can say the VIPs of meeting the great meeting for Amiga users, Amiga 30 years, and there was a presentation and there was your stand that the guys can ask you about I think anything. So let's make some introduction. What is it? Yeah.
Well, basically, it is a way to achieve a seamless computer experience through using any device. But more specifically, in this context, it's basically a re-implementation of what we all love about the Amiga OS in a future-proof technology base. So we basically have our kernel is like a program that runs on your computer, and this program does all the processing and everything like a kernel does, and it gives you access to all the resources on your computer, and then it can give you a graphical user interface, which is the desktop environment, which is being downloaded from this program, which acts like a server. So basically, for most people, FriendOS or FriendUP, which is really the proper name, is basically a webified operating system, because you access it in a web browser. Of course, this is the catch, because it's not only accessible in the web browser. You can disconnect the canvas from the web browser and run that without the web browser, and then you get it as a Linux environment, just as native as any other Linux environment or BSD environment, or wherever you want to port it. You could even do it in ROS or Windows as a shell replacement in Windows.
So this is something like X Windows or something like this? Because I'm not so IT guy. Yeah? I'm IT guy, but not in which programmer way or something like that. Yeah?
It's fascinating, because when I started planning to build our desktop environment, I was thinking, what graphics toolkit should we base it on? You know, you have in Linux, a lot of people use Qt, a lot of people use GTK, which GNOME is using. And I was thinking, because I've been programming with all those toolkits, and I always thought they were so complicated to program with, even more complicated than MUI or Zune. Actually, the Amiga OS is pretty easy to program. If you're going to make a C program with a graphical user interface, it's really easy to throw together. And this is not that easy on Linux, actually. It's not 1, 2, 3. It's tuned to people who develop using a framework and development environment that automates certain tasks. You have a GUI designer. It's much more complex. So I thought, well, I've been doing a lot of web development, and that's really easy. You just open any type of a rudimentary text editor and you start developing an application. And so I was thinking, would it be possible to actually use the web browser technology as a GUI framework, like instead of GTK or instead of Qt, just use because for example, the WebKit engine and graphical surface, if you would call it that. It's a graphical surface. It's so dynamic. It's so fast. It's hardware accelerated. It has so much media support. So if you look at Qt, it has, a lot of subsystems, it even sound and all kinds of stuff like that. But WebKit has all of that, and it's all integrated on the internet. So by using that instead of GTK, you can support any platform out there, even ROS and MorphOS with their WebKit ports. And you can be anywhere. And you can even go native by just taking that graphics technology that's inside your browser window and decouple it from the rest of the web browser and just run it directly. And then it feeds off of our server program, which is written in C. And when those two function together, for example, locally, you have almost native speed on everything. And you can actually achieve native speed. But when you put the server out on the internet and you have the browser or surface on your computer, then something fantastic happens. You're using a remote kernel that can cluster into thousands of kernels. And you don't have to worry about that. You're just downloading and interacting with the system as if it was a website or a local website. And actually it's not. It's a full desktop environment in just like every other system. So you get basically the opportunity of using the entire internet as hardware in your graphical user interface.
Understand. This is quite impressive. I never thought that the WebKit can be something more than the browser.
Yeah, it's just you just have to change your perspective a bit, and then you realize like, aha. So you can. It's actually more than just a browser, because the browser basically is just feeding the WebKit engine with layout instructions, just like you do in GTK, just like you do in MUI, only that the language is HTML and JavaScript instead of, for example, C and RX.
Okay, so it's I can say it's the whole approach to this project is much modern now, because you are using the latest modern technology like WebKit, and JavaScript is very popular, and now it's going on the top. Everything is, everybody doing everything in this stuff.
Yeah, and it's actually even more than that, because this server program we made, it's you can imagine it like ambassador for wherever it's installed. So if you install this FriendCore, you have two modes of operation. You have FriendCore, which is our kernel program. It can operate as an access node, which means you point your browser to it and you get your interface. Or it can operate as a network node. And when it's a network node, it is just a relay or, a resource that's being connected to. So what you can imagine it as is that you have the access node, which is operating kind of like a web server. And that access node can connect in turn to other FriendCores out there on the internet. And they become network nodes. So they just share resources. And this can just expand in a huge cluster all over the internet. And each of those access nodes and network nodes can be programmed in whatever language you want, as long as it interfaces with our server program. So that means you can take any application you already built and feed into FriendCore and use it in the desktop environment, or on your phone, or on your tablet. And so actually this is like a gate for everything you have to come onto one screen.
Okay, so let's make it now easier. For example, this is my question. Let's say I'm making something in Blender. I need to render the animation or whatever. And as I understand, with FriendOS, I also read your this is the not manual, but there's some notes. Can I think I can ask the guys, because it will be connected with in social way, that I need more CPUs, for example. Yeah, this is somehow possible to share CPUs or something like that.
Yeah, you can do this in two ways. The thing that we're working on right now is actually this Blender thing. Pavel is working on building this up as a service, because what you can do in the FriendCore server program is that you can connect up services. So basically you can hook up to FriendCore through the network, or through libraries, or through modules, or through services. So we have a broad perspective on how to interface with FriendCore. So he's building a Blender service. This means that when you log into your FriendUP desktop environment, you can tick off on the list that you want to share the Blender service with other people. And what happens then is that when you go into FriendUP, you can upload your Blender project file, and you can, like you find a network printer, search for other FriendCores that is running on the internet with the Blender service activated. And then you can choose those which are available, and then you can choose to render. And then FriendUP has a Blender front end, and then you click render, and then it renders each square of your screen on a separate node. So if there are like 50 available nodes to you, they will all render one part of the screen each. That, of course, will speed up rendering 50 times. So that's the one way. The other way is actually I'm in a bit of a discussion with some of the Blender developers at their IRC channel. And if this becomes feasible for people after October, when we get more beta users, they might be able to hook up directly to FriendCore from Blender using Python or some plugin interface. And so actually, FriendCore will be probably much more used than the desktop environment for relaying processing power and those type of things.
So this means I can open my Blender, open my project, and through the plugin it will be connected with I say friend network, and can use the more power, for example. Yeah?
Exactly. And we're gonna find as many software projects out there that can benefit from this, so that because this is also part of the open source strategy, is to make as many people as possible download FriendCore and activate the services.
Okay, so let's ask you about the, for example, like you said, beta testers, or the something like availability to the guys, or for public, or something like that. When it will be possible to download something or test it?
We're hoping to be able to provide access to the beta version in October. What we're doing, we have a really good colleague who is putting together documentation in consultancy with, or he's consulting everybody in the project. So you get basically really top-notch documentation. And he's also managing the SDK and the release package, basically the zip file, if you want. So when this is of a quality that will be easy to install and easy to set up for people, we will post it as a download. And I hope this will be in October. It depends a little bit on, reality, but I think it will be possible to do this in October. This is the plan anyway, because we need that to make the momentum towards the December release.
Okay, and the supported platforms, which they are?
Probably in October it will be mainly Linux or BSD, but mainly Linux first. Our team is not the biggest right now. That can change, but for the time being, we're focusing on getting everything bug-free on Linux. And then after that, it will be probably Windows, and of course. I hope that we'll be able to, manage to port the FriendCore over to MorphOS. But I can't promise anything. But I know that Pavel really wants to do this, so and I really support that.
It will be nice to have something new on the let's say Amiga side. Another question is about the desktop, because the desktop of FriendOS looks similar to Amiga somehow, so Amiga Workbench or something like this. This will be this direction. It will be simple and efficient like Amiga OS, or this is only beta preview or something like this?
Yeah, it will be pretty much like Amiga OS. So our desktop environment right now is more resembling the Amiga OS 3X, but this will be changed. We're working on a theme editor, and you'll be able to make the system look like a Windows or Mac as well. But everybody is going to have access to an Amiga like shell, for example. And this file structure is very similar to Amiga OS, with partitions with like system colon and storage colon, and how you navigate through directories is very similar to Amiga OS. And this will be the same when you choose the Mac or Windows look, because actually, from our point of view, the Windows file structure is absolutely nothing to emulate. And the Mac file structure is basically just a mirage for the BSD system that's underneath.
True.
So they're going to have if you're a Mac user who comes to FriendUP, you're going to be positively surprised by much more neat-looking file structure. And of course, you're going to have pull-down menus, Amiga style, unless you configure it away. We also have screen support. So everybody's, even if you're running the Windows theme or the Mac theme, you're also going to have screens, draggable screens. Because
nice touch.
Yeah, we came to realize that once you have screens, you don't want to be without them.
Yeah, this is true. This is the one of the most useful thing in Amiga OS. You can open separate. It's in Linux or Mac OS is something similar. Yeah, you can open the full screen application or something like this, or the virtual desktops. But I think in Amiga OS is the best. It's the best way of doing such a things.
Yeah, because it becomes more reality based, kind of, because you have a screen, and when you drag the screens, you feel more that the application is an object, rather than when you have them down on some kind of taskbar where you just flick them up and down like paper sheets. It actually feels nice to see the application in action underneath other applications. And so that we definitely want to keep, and we want to innovate on it as well. So we're going to do some new things with screens that you don't have on Amiga OS.
Okay, so let's stay tuned. We should now talk about the event in Amsterdam, but I have some other question, maybe not much more, but some other, the social things in FriendUP, how it will be done or something like that. It will be something like Facebook, in the way of the chat, because I don't think so this will be the wall with picture of your kid's wife and dog. Yeah, so how it will be, how the users can connect and talk, and the social thing easy.
Yeah, we our sister company is called Friend Studios. That company is developing applications for FriendUP. And this is the nice thing about FriendUP, is that when you make a FriendUP application, it will take you minimal efforts to decouple it from FriendUP and just make it display on a web address. So people will just go there and it will auto log in, and suddenly you have your application distributed almost like a website. So this is a cool feature from FriendUP, is that you can distribute your applications standalone as websites. So we have this project we call Tree Root, which you're going to see a lot more from us about later on. We have two or three guys working almost full time on this system, and have been working on it for 1.5 years now. And it's a little bit of a Facebook replacement with LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, so on, thrown in the mix. So basically, this application will be included with FriendUP. It can be used just like Facebook in a web interface, or it can be used with our apps. So what we've done is that we've implemented this social network as a file system, because everything in Friend is a file system. And so when you go in on the tree root partition, you will have a chat application. You will have a library there. All your files will be in a directory. And you will be able to drag and drop in and out files from the rest of your system into your social profile. And you're going to be able to chat with an MSN or IRC-like interface application. We have an application we developed that's called Hello. It's probably going to be, the name is going to be changed because Firefox incidentally came out with a chat application called Hello.
Oops.
This is the world of the internet, So basically, this is a multi-protocol chat application that hooks you up to other friends using FriendUP or Facebook or Google. And so you're going to have everything in one place. So it's going to be a lot of social activity, but also since we're implementing it as a file system, there's going to be a lot of exchanging of files between users, much more than you have today.
Okay, yeah, now we have only share and send. The other question is this whole project will be made also for the iPhone or Android phones or something like this, and how it, if yes, how it will be look like, for example.
Yeah, are you talking about the FriendUP for phones?
For example, for I think for Android it will be easy, because I think for an Android you can put your application there, and the application can use what I'm thinking about. The application then can use, for example, my CPU from my tablet to share the power. In iOS, I think it's not so easy because the Apple is very stricted about this. You get the sandbox and you cannot go out somewhere. I think I'm not developer.
There are some workarounds. There are some workarounds to that. I was actually talking to Pavel the other day about this sharing of data from phones, and you have some restrictions on the various operating systems. For example, you can't actually give access to the CPU and those type of things. But of course, you can use the CPU. So what's possible to do is actually, in the capacity that you have available, you can do processing in JavaScript on your phone. And you can give access through the app that's installed on your phone and expose that. Because what's a bit special in FriendUP is that actually each client becomes a server. So actually you can serve resources and files and applications out of your JavaScript client. And today you have a lot of things you can do with JavaScript that gives you a lot of resources. So a lot of people think that JavaScript is this super slow, awkward script that can only be used for jQuery and web pages. But JavaScript has become really fast, and it has become very versatile. So on any device that has our app running with our web client, you're going to be able to share resources from that device.
So, I think the last but not least about the cost of it, how it will be look like, how much I must pay, or it will be free, or for business it will be the user must to pay, or this whole stuff, the plans of it. Yeah.
Our strategy is, and this is also our vision, is that FriendUP is a market more than it is a product. This was the big mistake that Commodore made with Amiga OS. They didn't realize that because if you take a look at what Google has done with Android. I read an article that said that it was a kind of disaster because Google was not earning any money on Android because it was free and open source. And the author of that article, he didn't see the point, because Google is earning a lot of money on Android, through the activity that's happening on the Android platform, all the transactions, all the applications, everything like that. And for Amiga OS, for example, once their hardware platform was becoming more and more obscure, they wanted to control the entire experience by tying down the software to the hardware. And so basically the software went down with the ship when that sunk. What we want to do, we want to spread FriendOS or FriendUP everywhere through our open source strategy. So you can download it for free, you can use it for free. Once you want to develop an application that you want to sell and package, then you need to get the commercial license. Meaning that if you want to close your source code and distribute your application as a proprietary product, then of course you have to have a license compatible version of FriendOS. And that you do through buying the commercial license. And this will only be for people who are software developers who want to, sell closed source applications. If you want to work in the open source world, you don't really have any restrictions.
Okay, so this means in, let's say, October, everybody can use the beta version through register on the webpage or something, of course, but it will be not so closed or like this, yeah?
Yeah, our strategy is to make it so that in October you can get access, at the very least have access to your very own free desktop environment. And if we get where we're planning to go, you're going to be able to download the FriendCore. And once you have FriendCore running on your computer, you can just point your web browser to your local host at a configurable port, and the whole desktop environment will be running from your own local device.
Okay, so more or less, I think we know everything. So I will now jump to the Amiga Amsterdam, or the Amiga in Amsterdam. Just easy the feelings about the party and how it was from your point of view, because you are in the VIPs section, let's say like this. I was only visitor, so just easy the feelings and what is nice or what wasn't nice or something like this.
Yeah, we arrived really early because Arne, the CEO, he was smart about how we were gonna sleep in Amsterdam. So he went into the Airbnb website and he found somebody who wanted to rent out their whole house for us the whole weekend. So we actually stayed at some people's house just right next to the lighthouse. That was just, I think, 2 blocks away or something like that. And so we were there at around 9 o'clock when they opened and set up our stand immediately. Then we started talking to people and it was really great. This I think is the biggest Amiga related event I've ever been to. How many people showed up there? I mean,
I don't know, but there was a lot of guys, and I think the much more impressive was a lot of the guests, the VIPs, like Dave Hogne or RJ or something. This was one place. I think this will never be repeat again, because in this 30 years event, it will be not so much guys. So the celebrities of Amiga in one place, and you can, this was possible to talk with everybody. Yeah,
it was fantastic. I actually didn't get enough time because I had to keep our stand up and going. So I didn't get the time to speak to everybody I wanted to speak to. The person I spoke the most to was David Pleasance. And I hooked up with him on Facebook afterwards, and we've since actually had quite a few conversations. I was always very impressed with I was a steady reader of Amiga Format and CU Amiga, those English those Amiga magazines, and especially the last period in before Commodore went bankrupt. I was reading articles coming from Colin Proudfoot and David Pleasance, and they were like speaking about their visions of how the future could be and so on. And this was really interesting for me to talk with him in person and actually find out what type of person he was. Not really a technical person, but a proficient businessman. I didn't get to talk much to many other people. I met this Finnish Atari guy, Kari, I think his name was.
I don't know. To be honest, I know what you. I heard about this because I was all everywhere and nowhere, because I was talking with a lot of guys too. So I miss the other some guys too for sure, because but yeah. So I have something here I can check, but I don't know the name.
Anyhow, we actually had a really great time, and we also went out in Amsterdam with everybody. After the big day, we went on a cruise on the channels in Amsterdam, and it was really nice. We met the Cloanto guy.
The Mike,
yeah, he was a really cool guy. And so we sat there and had. I got gluten-free food in the boat. I think he had been expecting to have this gluten-free food himself, so I ate his lunch. They had only prepared one gluten-free meal, and somehow it ended up on my table.
Yes, but this is good. Yeah. It's not so easy always to get the gluten-free food, and this because I was only on this official section, so this VIP dinner or something like that. This how it take that how it was it, and how much hours you were cruising through the Amsterdam, and the atmosphere, because the atmosphere in official part was very nice. Everybody can. This was the visitor was able to talk with everybody at the end of all, and how it was in this VIP dinner with the celebrities.
Oh, it was really great. I found his name is Kari Kaksonen. He sat next to me. He was a friend of RJ Michael, and he had completely modified his Atari Lynx device to use. He had changed color on it. He had given it a VGA port, and he was showing us all these. He had a folder full of exotic cartridges. That was all, of course, made on Amiga. And David Haney and RJ was sitting in the back drinking beer, having a great time. And I think this what's his name? This guy who makes the Aeon computer.
The Trevor.
Yeah,
Trevor Dickinson.
Yeah, he was. We were joking about his red squared tie and everything. Everybody was in a really good mood.
And, this was a very nice.
There was almost. I don't think there was a single woman, except the hostesses on the boat. For that, there was no women.
This is I think this is the biggest problem of IT era, because the most is always guys and the geeks, and everybody are crazy about the computers. So I with my girlfriend. She is not Amiga girl, but for her is very impressive the when you have for example the Jobs concert, or he was playing Cannon Fodder and this stuff, and everybody was singing or something. For her it's completely crazy. It makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we are really strange old boys, and strange old boys. So yeah, I think in the television they will show, oh, look at the crazy old guys. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody's grouping around this computer that is the name of a girlfriend.
Yeah, true. And everybody makes took the autograph from the some guy with the, I don't know, long hairs or something. But this was nice. This was I now I have some autographs on my Amiga 2000 keyboards, and so this was very, very impressive. And now now I cannot use the keyboard anymore because it's
yeah, I'm actually contemplating bringing my Amiga 2000 keyboard to California. We're going to California next week to the Amiga 30 event there, and we might meet some of these rock stars and have a chance to talk with them this time. I know Arne, he talked to, that's the CEO, he talked to David Haney, Carl Sassenrath, and he talked to everybody while I was standing at the stand. And we're gonna hook up with some of those guys again in California.
Yeah, very nice. So this is next week, this meeting.
Yeah, we're traveling on Thursday. We're gonna go to San Francisco, to Mountain View, and we're gonna stay there for about a week. And we're gonna go and meet, people who can bring some finance, and we're gonna talk to some technologists. Actually, I also hoped to meet one of the guys from the Xerox PARC team. It's actually a Norwegian guy who lives in San Jose. But we're trying to squeeze everything in that little week. So it's probably a lot of things we won't have time for. But we're going to have even more stuff to show from FriendUP. And we're working on a little demo that we wished we had in Amsterdam, but we're going to finish for California, which is showing off some 3D stuff, because we really think that as the demo scene gets this. I don't know, when was the last time you were at a demo party?
Oh, this was a lot of years ago.
So one of the biggest things that they're competing in today is Shader Toy. Have you seen Shader Toy?
I don't know. I think no, because I say no. Yeah.
So Shader Toy is basically kind of development tool online to make fantastic 3D effects and sound effects connected to the graphics. So it's basically a demo developer tool.
Something like Demo Maker, it was on Amiga, the idea, yeah?
Yeah, but it's using this GLSL language, and it lets people just go right into it and play. And so when we were at Solskogen demo party last weekend, there was a compo with some developers competing for the best shader toy effects and so on. And actually, the same way that this has become actually a type of demo platform with ShaderToy, I think that in the coming year and next year, we're going to be able to introduce FriendUP as a demo platform for people to make WebGL-based demos and ShaderToy demos, and actually, give them a really nice integrated environment to develop these demos and to show them off and distribute them online. So you're probably going to have FriendUP links at Poet.net and those type of websites next to the YouTube and mirror downloads.
This is, I think it's a nice idea, because I read some article that demos scene is not so popular on the web browser. I think there is something existing, yeah, but like a platform.
So because the main thing with the demo scene, if you ask me, is that it was a place where new talent could show off what they could do. Today you have new talent that even goes into assembly coding on older platforms. And when they release something, it's very simple compared to, the old timers who have had years and years upon practicing on all kinds of cool effects. And so that makes it a bit of hard stage to go on to for new talent who might not be so advanced. And it also is a bit difficult for people to get into the scene, if you're going to be competing on the terms of the old timers. And I think so adding a web platform into the mix will be really a nice opportunity for new talent to get into the demo scene and to show off their talent in an easy way.
Yeah, so like I said, something like YouTube for demo scene.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, this is good. Yeah, this is good approach. Okay, so what one thing about the Amsterdam, because the question, because now you are maybe not so involved with Amiga, yeah, and how is your feeling about this party from the site? The guy not connected, because now the retro is come back, and everybody everywhere the retro is very trendy now. And how you see the future of Amiga, because on Amsterdam meeting this was the mostly nostalgia way, yeah, everybody was have the good mood about the old good times. And do you see any future for us, for example, with Trevor's hardware or MorphOS site for Amiga or for the Amiga community?
Yes, actually, I do. I really do. Basically, the real platform, the real Amiga platform, is the people. The Volkert, the guy who was part of arranging the whole party in Amsterdam, he was such a nice guy. I had to export a suitcase with our stand in it to Holland because it weighed 45 kilos, so I couldn't bring it on the plane. So I had to export it and then import it into the Schiphol airport. And it was a lot of stress because we almost didn't get it checked out on time. I had like 4 or 5 police people around me. I had to sign papers and everything. It was a really big ordeal just for to get this thing in. And so when we went back to Norway on Sunday, I had the stand. And I couldn't get it shipped because of UPS. They had closed their offices. So Volkert came and he said, I'll take care of this for you. And, so I went back to Norway and he shipped it back to Norway for me. And really great people. And this type of solidarity and friendship that's inside the community, this is really healthy for developing a platform into the future. And everybody who's in the Amiga community, they understand the Amiga philosophy. And it's very hard to make other people understand this. So I think a lot of us who is affiliated with Amiga in some way, it's part of our culture. It's become a part of our way of understanding technology. And so I think there's a huge future in once we get modern technology that can survive in the market. There's going to be a lot of us who's now in the 40s and 30s. It's going to be a lot of time for us to inspire young talent to continue this thing, because basically the Amiga community is like a university for a certain point of view in technology.
No, true. The Amiga is. I was learned everything on Amiga, I can say, because of Amiga, maybe like that. Okay, the one only thing, because about the Amiga again, because you are a developer, active developer of new technologies. So if you can share if you can share your mind with the Amiga developers, what should be done, for example, to get the more software for Amiga, and the Amiga community is divided for the FreeOS, Aeros, MorphOS, Amiga OS 4. So to make it simple, for example, if the Qt or GTK is the way to approach this problem, for example, lack of the new browser, or the only other stuff like Magic User Interface, typical Amiga solution. So
I
can you
think
say something?
I think that first of all, people need to bury the hatchet and try to get around these troll wars that are rampant in the forums. And we need to have we should have basically a new forum where everybody came together. People have today, they've established their forums, and you can see, for example, amiga.org, and you can see how old these forums are. You're not going to have new people joining there very often. And you also notice that it's become kind of a religion for a lot of people. And this is fine in one way, but on the other hand, it's very prohibitive to new people once you have this kind of cult thing going. So basically what I'm saying is that there should be like a new forum that would focus on the future for all the, I see Amiga as Unix. You have BSD, you have Linux, you have Solaris, and then you have, we should find a name like Amiga for Unix, because we have ROS, we have MorphOS, we have Amiga OS 4, we have the classic line, and we have now a FriendUP, which is in the Amiga Unix culture, so to speak. So we should find a common name for all the Amiga platforms. And, this is something that I see should be done. And as for, technology with the GUI and so on, I actually, I'm a strong believer in using the web engines. And now all the Amiga OSs have WebKit on their platforms. So if they could make a MUI or a Zune widget that would display the WebKit engine very easily and seamlessly into a MUI or a Zune application, that would be fantastic. Just make a widget so that you can make applications using both MUI and WebKit, seamlessly in the same application. And then you could also actually have FriendUP applications inside the MUI applications by using that. So
this will be a nice connection.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go, is to try to use what has the most momentum. And I think because in WebKit you have something called native client. So you can actually have C bindings directly to the WebKit layer, and then you can do some amazing things. So, that should be explored don't think about WebKit as a web browser. Think about it as a display technology.
This is a revolution for me. Good. I have one more idea, because I think more or less we are correct on the time, and we say most everything. But the one more idea is, because you go to California and you will have a lot of meeting with the business meeting and the Amiga meetings. Maybe we can meet together again, and you can talk about the Amiga meeting in California, and maybe about FriendOS, what happening next, to make the update of today interview.
Okay, I would love to.
Yeah, so I think it is nice, because I think in California you can get the sun, of course. And I'm jealous about this, because it's raining in Germany now.
Oh, I'm in the west coast of Norway. I'm really in need of summer.
Yes, so you know, this is the nice, and I think you will have now the much more time to talk with the celebrities of Amiga world. So maybe you will have some other tips for us. What to do with our future, and then we can. I will ask you about the FriendUP, because now we know what is it, and I hope this will go in good direction, and at the end of all, it will be bring something for Amiga OS users too, because the Amiga OS users or MorphOS users, they need the tools and the software.
Oh yeah.
Good, and to finish this, the greetings. So you can say greetings for everybody, for nobody, as you wish. So.
Yeah, I'd like to greet Pavel, of course. He's kind of the other hemisphere of my brain and development. We have late nights programming. You know, he's like a machine. And everybody else in my team, like Michael and Espen and Arne, and we have, this is the beginning of something great. And I hope that the people out there in the Amiga community will connect to us and see our project as a channel, into the future. Perhaps with a different perspective than they have today, but if they follow our vision, they will see that in our future, you're going to be able to be creative and productive, like on the Amiga, only on a platform that will probably never die.
Yeah, well, very nice. Yeah, at the end of all, our future is something like terminal computer or terminal netbook or something like this, and the power server. Yeah, so this is.
Just wait until the virtual reality interfaces start becoming common. It's gonna change everything.
Oh God! Okay, this is too much. Okay, so I will say now thank you for your time, and I hope we will soon meet again after the California sun, and we will chat more about the Amiga and FriendUP. Thanks.
Thank you.
It was AMIcast, podcast for all Amiga users.